So what if the best way to fix injustice in our courts wasn't through loud protests and big media campaigns? What if it was through a radical new model that operates, well, almost entirely in secret? Today, we're going to dig into a really fascinating and, yeah, pretty controversial plan for justice reform happening out in California.
Okay, so it all kicks off with this announcement from a guy named James Fisher. He comes out and says he has a brand new, highly effective model for fixing injustice. But there's a huge catch. He won't tell anyone how it works. He'll only talk about the process. And I'm guessing your first reaction is probably the same as mine was, a whole lot of skepticism.
And you can see exactly why right here. I mean, look at the standard playbook for this kind of thing. You're supposed to release a white paper, show all your work, get as much publicity as you can to build support. But Fisher? He's throwing that whole playbook out the window. He's doing the exact opposite. He wants everyone to just trust him, without a shred of proof. He's breaking all the rules.
I mean, he's basically asking everyone to just suspend their disbelief, to just take his word for it. That's a huge ask, right? Especially when you're talking about something as critical as the justice system.
So this brings up the obvious question. Who is this guy? To really get what he's doing, we have to understand the man behind the model. And it turns out his background is pretty unique.
So the first clue is exactly what you'd expect. He's a legal researcher. Okay, that makes sense. He's in the legal field, he's got the credentials, so far so good. But then you get the twist. His background isn't just in law. It's also in social and human behavioral science. And that combination, well, that feels very, very intentional. It's the key to this whole thing.
Think about it. The legal system is supposed to be rigid, right? It's all about precedent and codes and laws. But the people in that system, the judges, the lawyers, the clerks, they're all human. They're driven by psychology, by bias, by stress. So Fisher isn't trying to rewrite the law books. He's looking at the system as a human system and asking, why do these people make the decisions they do? He's trying to hack the human element itself.
Now, let's talk about his network, because this is not a one-man show. His entire plan hinges on recruiting very specific kinds of people to actually make a difference. And this is another huge way his approach is different from traditional activism. You know, he's not organizing protests on the courthouse steps or launching big media campaigns to put pressure on people. His entire model is built on correcting the system from the inside, using influential insiders to make these quiet course corrections.
And this quote just gets right to the heart of it. He's not trying to convince outsiders. He is specifically going after insiders, people who are already in positions of influence, people who literally have their hands on the levers of power within the system. And we're not talking about a small group here. The scale he's talking about is massive. He mentions contacts all over California, describing what is pretty much a sleeper network of professionals ready to help citizens across the entire state. The ambition is huge. Now, of course, by its very design, we don't have public case studies to point to as proof, and that's the trade-off his model demands.
So this brings us back to the big question. Why all the secrecy? I mean, if you have this amazing, influential network ready to go, the normal move is to shout it from the rooftops, right? But Fisher does the opposite, and the logic behind it is purely tactical.
He makes it crystal clear that discretion is the core principle. It's not just a suggestion, it's the fundamental rule for everyone involved. For them, the only goal is maximum impact with zero fanfare.
And here's why that's so important. Think about how this usually goes down in our polarized world. You announce a big reform plan, you make a lot of noise, and what happens? Immediately, the system's guard goes up. It triggers political resistance, and pretty soon the focus shifts from actually getting a good outcome to just worrying about the optics of it all. So you could call this whole thing stealth mode reform. By operating discreetly, you just sidestep all the politics and the posturing. The focus can stay purely on getting the right outcome for the victim. It suggests that maybe the best way to fix a broken system isn't always to attack it head-on, but to have good, competent people on the inside, quietly making things right.
But, and this is a big but, this entire model requires a massive amount of trust from all of us, because by definition, we don't get to see the work as it's happening. And this raises a really fundamental question about transparency and justice.
You know, we're all programmed to demand total transparency in everything, right? We want the public meeting minutes, we want the live stream sessions, the open forums. We want to see exactly how the sausage is made. But Fisher's model just challenges that assumption head on. It really forces us to ask a very direct question. What's more important, seeing the work happen or actually getting the work done?
And that's really the thought I want to leave you with.
We tend to think secrecy is a bad thing, especially when it comes to government and justice. But this whole model forces you to ask, could our constant demand for transparency actually, sometimes, become an obstacle? Could it get in the way of fixing the very injustices we all want to solve? Is it possible that the missing ingredient isn't more publicity, but just the ability to work quietly, without an audience?